I want to add to this because...
Can I just, because I want to go after the question as well, what's the precise intention of bringing these groups together, like the Irish Republican Army, which is considered as a terrorist group? What is the intention of the Biennale to bring these groups together in a summit in Berlin?
Well, as Arthur said, if you have really to have an insight in the whole project, the best. You should have a discussion with Jonas Stahl about it and the research that he has been doing for 1 year. But we are not bringing those groups. We are bringing, he's saying in his essay that you can also read on the website of the Biennale, Art in Defense of Democracy. He's using an art context to ask questions and bring together different really top and very well-informed lawyers who have been dealing with the questions of inclusion and exclusion within the democratic order, and also what he calls democratism. And those lawyers are involved in, for example, defending the prisoners of Guantanamo Bay. And there is, on his website, you can see the orders and the ways how this list have been created. But the particular members or particular lawyers will be revealed on the day of the Congress, and all of them are legal representatives.
So in case of this project by Jonas, I mean, he's talking about the democracy, which is not complete. I mean, because it's not applied to these people. So they are somehow the people who are on the terrorist lists. So they are excluded from the democratic order. So we can torture them. They can be in prison without the sentence, and so on and so on. So this is not a question about the terrorists, in fact, but this is the question of about the condition of democracy in general, somehow. And this is only, let's say, one case, a study case for Jonas to investigate the limits of democracy.
I would say there are 3 more questions, and then we have to finish the press conference because we are late. Sorry. First question.
So yes, that's very interesting, the limits of democracy. So you said that the Biennale would set in motion processes that would survive the Biennale. And you as curators, what would you prefer that to be? Which processes would you wish to survive the Biennale, actually? Or which of them? Maybe you have a choice or preference on that.
I guess, from my point of view, it's working. It would be fantastic if art could go towards more performative dimension. So not only as a sphere that tells us the story, as Renzo Marsden said, about beauty and kindness that artists are trying to implement somewhere, but that art that is more responsible in engaging and being maybe a reservoir for political thinking. And if in the future, in the city like Berlin, which is really proud of its cultural production and art, the exhibitions which are showing the art productions are not only exhibitions presenting art objects, but rather certain strategies or methodologies which can serve also for society at large, stemming from art.
So I'd like to add to what Joanna said, that this art or these artists, they support, let's say, certain tendencies in the society. So there are groups of people whose wish is to somehow emancipate themselves. So that's what they do. I mean, Jonas Stahl is talking about the limits of democracy. I mean, the social movements are talking about the lack of political involvement and lack of the, let's say, political participation. They also strongly question existing politics somehow. So these are all tendencies in the society which we are trying to support and join. I mean, and it will survive even if we are not interested in it, even without us, without the Biennale, without art, without this KW institution, whatever. I mean, it will happen somehow.
Okay, quick question right over here. It's for the artist, actually. Did the artists ever find it maybe paradoxical, the fact that you were receiving, say, funding for the Biennale by the state, and yet the state is what is actually imposing a lot of things that you may be going against or questioning? So that's the first question. Second question is, for those, let's not call them artists, but rather political activists who are now being deemed as artists or having this struggle being placed within a gallery context, for them, what does that do to their political activism? Does it somehow change the meaning? Is it now looked at differently or not as serious because now it is art or this performative democracy, performative social context? So those are my two questions if the artist would like to answer.
So some artists want to answer?
I think what you said is true, because we aren't artists, we are all activists, and the women before asked about the boys thing, and of course boys is in this stuff, it's quite seeable, but we have to come beyond boys, of course, and just live this social plastic and sculpture, and that's happening right now. And it's okay, so it's not about the authors or the artists or the history in this case, it's just about this time and the chance we have, and we should use it. And art is of course a big weapon and a tool, but it's not all, it's not a self thing or something, it's just a method, just a tool. So I should agree, or I agree with you in some case.
Just one answer to the question regarding of the financing, like who gave the money for the biennial and so on. We had such discussions too. Is it serious to use the space? But several people of us thought a bit further, like where's this money coming from? Why this money is collectively produced wealth that the people cannot control, that the people are not in control of. So in a way that we decide to accept this offer is just using the wealth that has been collectively produced in society for bringing the society and the mankind movement forward, in a way. So it's kind of taking what is for the people, by the people.
Okay, I guess there was one last question around here. Yeah.
Thanks. You have been talking about pragmatic art, a pragmatic that creates effects, that doesn't create questions, but gives answers. I want to ask if you have presented kind of protocol or methodology to evaluate the effects of the biennial, if you have thought about it, or if it is impossible, or...
So I think again the people from the public, from the movements should answer this question.
Wait a second, we're answering right now. Sorry, now we're discussing on your question. Your question was whether there is a way of seeing the effect this has in the world. Well, if personally I can answer, unfortunately there is no such thing as like, I mean, for example, I study sociology, and you could start doing statistics on this, but this is not important. I mean, this is actually one of our major problems. We are driven by this result things. And I see how this need for result in the past months that we've been working together produced a lot of frustration, because often you cannot see the result. You see, I was by incident in New York and talking to somebody. It was just when the Occupy New York movement started, and somebody asked, do you think that makes sense, you doing all of this bullshit? And he said, if you're on a ship and it's sinking and you have nothing but your hands to repair this, do you ask whether it makes sense? Do you ask whether there is a result? You have just to try. So We personally don't have any tools to find out whether there is an effect, but we don't see any other possibility. And that's that's also an answer to your question, and also I will have an answer for your question in this one. Whether we see us as artists, how does it, what's the, we being forced, like, or not forced, we're working with government money and being pushed into the role of artists. That's the same answer. We have to take the possibilities that are there. And every time, please, I'm sorry, I need to answer this one. Every time somebody said system, I could read from your lips, what fucking system? Which fucking system? All right?
Okay, ich muss an der... Ja,
one minute. Yeah. I'm sorry, I see. I'm sorry. One moment. The system emerges from our individual, from the things we do, our deeds. The system emerges from our deeds. There are things we are forced into, and we have to rethink them. By then we can change this system that is there, even if you cannot name it. You can define it.
Ich glaube, es gibt sehr viel Raum in den Kunstwerken während dieser Berlin Biennale weiter zu diskutieren, und ich bitte darum zu kommen, auch zu diskutieren, mit dabei zu sein. An dieser Stelle muss ich sagen, offiziell ist die Pressekonferenz beendet. Wenn jetzt nicht noch weitere Fragen sind, sonst wenden Sie sich bitte auch noch mal an unser Pressebüro. Die wichtigsten Informationen haben Sie in den Pressemappen. Danke Ihnen allen für Ihr Kommen.